Lando Norris wins the Zandvoort Grand Prix. Let's talk about it. Welcome back to On Track GP, I'm Jamie Chambers and we have a great race to break down for you today. The Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort has just wrapped up and it's safe to say we have witnessed a shift in the 2024 Formula 1 season. Lando Norris has absolutely dominated the race, claiming a victory that we remembered for some time. But let's start at the beginning. It wasn't all smooth sailing for Lando. As the lights went out, Max Verstappen, the hometown hero, pounced like a lion, snatching the lead with a brilliant getaway. For a moment, it looked like we might be in for another Verstappen masterclass at Zandvoort. Verstappen, previously untouchable at his home circuit with 3 wins from pole, quickly broke out of DRS range and looked well set in the early stages to continue his Dutch GP form. But Norris and McLaren had other ideas. The pace of that papaya rocket was simply staggering. Lando stalked Verstappen for the opening laps, biding his time. Around lap 14, Norris began to close the gap as he expressed confidence over McLaren's pace on the team radio, which was in contrast to the reports of tyre deg Verstappen was making to the Red Bull pit wall. Then on lap 18, he made his move, a clinical overtake into turn 1, and just like that, the lead changed hands. The Brit was quickly through to the lead with Verstappen powerless to resist as Norris used DRS to pass on the home straight at the start of lap 18. From that point on, it was the Lando Norris show. By the time Verstappen pitted at the end of lap 27, the lead was almost 6 seconds and Norris was responded by stopping a lap later to ensure he maintained track position. He had to wait until Piastri pitted at the end of lap 33 to return to the lead, but then pulled away at a stunning rate to open a massive advantage. The gap just kept growing and growing. By the time the checkered flag fell, Norris had built up a mammoth 22.8 second lead. That's the kind of dominance we usually associate with Verstappen. And speaking of Max, he had to settle for second place on home turf for the first time since Zandvoort's return to the calendar. The Dutch fans were gracious in defeat, but you could sense the disappointment in the air. Rounding out the podium was Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. The Monegasque driver had to work hard for that trophy, fending off a determined Oscar Piastri in the second McLaren for the last 27 laps. It was a great day for McLaren all round, with both cars showing blistering pace. Ferrari in turn showed signs of resurgence at Zandvoort despite a challenging qualifying session. Charles Leclerc's podium finish and Carlos Sainz's strong performance provided a much needed boost for the Italian team ahead of their home race at Monza. Leclerc's impressive race pace allowed him to maintain third position under pressure from Oscar Piastri's McLaren, demonstrating that Ferrari have improved their race day performance. McLaren's strategy for Piastri, aiming to give him fresher tyres for a late race charge, initially seemed promising. However, Leclerc's defensive skills and the Ferrari's unexpected pace prevented Piastri from claiming a podium finish. Mercedes faced a mixed day, with George Russell's potential podium chance squandered by a poor pit stop. The team's decision to switch Russell from a 2-stop strategy further compromised his position. Lewis Hamilton started with a disadvantaged grid position due to a penalty, made progress through the field but couldn't challenge the top positions, underlining that deficit was never going to be overcome. Red Bull's Sergio Perez achieved his best result since the Miami Grand Prix in May, finishing 6th. However, his inability to match teammate Max Verstappen's pace continues to be a concern for Red Bull, potentially leaving them vulnerable in the Constructors' Championship. This performance gap between the Red Bull drivers could prove crucial as the season progresses. So, a bit of a shake-up in the pecking order further down, with Carlos Sainz bringing the second Ferrari home in 5th, followed by Sergio Perez in the other Red Bull. A slow pit stop hampered George Russell as he dropped from 4th on the grid to finish in 7th for Mercedes, while his teammate Hamilton could only salvage 8th after a poor qualifying session and obviously that further penalty as well. All in all, a very surprising lack of pace from Mercedes today. They've won 2 of the last 3 races before this event. Pierre Gasly scored points for Alpine in 9th, holding on to his starting position to secure vital points for Alpine, while Fernando Alonso rounded out the top 10 for Aston Martin, salvaging a single point for an otherwise underwhelming afternoon and a challenging race for Aston Martin. Outside the points, and frustratingly, Nico Hülkenberg narrowly missed out on the top 10 finish for Haas, coming in home in 11th, which does seem to be a recurring theme for him this season, so close to the points. Lance Stroll struggled to match his teammates' pace, ending up in 12th in the second Aston Martin. Daniel Ricciardo took 13th ahead of Alpine's Esteban Ocon. The Williams duo of Alex Albon and Logan Sargent crossed the line in 15th and 16th respectively, showing improved pace but still out of the points. Yuki Tsunoda had a disappointing day in the second RB, finishing 17th, while Kevin Magnussen rounded out a tough race for Haas in 18th. The Sauber pair of Valtteri Bottas and Zhou Guanyu brought up the rear, finishing 19th and 20th, continuing their team's pointless streak this season. Now let's talk about Verstappen for a moment. Verstappen appeared to be cruising towards a fourth successive driver's title after making a dominant start to the season, but defeat at this home race for the first time in 4 appearances means he has now gone 5 races without a victory. The usually unflappable Dutchman was on the radio early complaining about a lack of grip. It was clear that the Red Bull, so often the class of the field this season, just didn't have an answer for McLaren's pace today. Max's defence against Norris was uncharacteristically mild, a sign perhaps that he knew that the writing was on the wall. But it wasn't quite over at the checkered flag. Norris, in a cheeky nod to Verstappen's usual post-race catchphrase, radioed in with a simply lovely of his own. It was a playful jab that showed just how confident Lando is feeling right now. Having failed to convert 2 pole positions earlier in the summer to victory, Norris finally claims his second F1 victory, and the dominant nature of his performance with the McLaren's latest upgrades package will spark hopes that the Brit can still ignite a full-on title battle with Verstappen. And he has every reason to be confident. This win shortens Verstappen's championship lead. With 9 races remaining, Norris has reduced Verstappen's lead to 70 points following his dominant victory today. The current standings show Verstappen still in command with 295 points, but Norris is now a clear second with 225. Charles Leclerc holds third place with 192, closely followed by Norris's McLaren teammate Oscar Piastri at 179. The top 10 is rounded out by Sainz, Hamilton, Perez, Russell, Alonso and Stroll. As the season enters its final stretch, the question on everyone's mind is whether Norris can maintain his momentum and mount a serious challenge to Verstappen's title defence. Now, it's still a hefty advantage with 9 races to go, but if McLaren can maintain his form, we just might have a title fight on our hands. Especially as we know Lando has to take an average of 7.8 points out of Verstappen every race to take the title. So taking 8 points from him today by securing the fastest lap was a great start. In the Constructors' Championship, things are heating up too. McLaren is now breathing down Red Bull's neck. After 15 rounds of racing, Red Bull's lead has been slashed to a mere 30 points, with the standings now showing Red Bull at 434 points and McLaren hot on their heels with 404. This dramatic shift comes on the back of McLaren's successful upgrades, which have propelled them into serious contention for the title. Ferrari holds third place with 370 points and Mercedes sits fourth with 276. Could we see a McLaren Constructors' Championship title for the first time since 1998? The Zandvoort Grand Prix results have set the stage for an intriguing battle in the coming races. Ferrari's improved form, McLaren's consistent challenge, Mercedes' struggles and the ongoing disparity between Red Bull's drivers all contribute to an increasingly competitive and unpredictable Formula One season. As the teams prepare for the Italian Grand Prix at Monza, the fight for position in both the Drivers' and Constructors' Championship remains fierce. The midfield battle sees Aston Martin leading the pack with 74 points, followed by RB, Haas, Alpine and Williams, with Sauber yet to score. As the season progresses, all eyes will be on the intensifying battle between Red Bull and McLaren for constructor supremacy. Could we see McLaren claim their first title in 26 years? It's still a long shot, but after today's performance, you wouldn't bet against them. This result is a massive vindication for McLaren's recent upgrade package. They faced some criticism for letting opportunities slip earlier in the season, but today's dominant display proves they're very much back in the game. As we wrap up, let's not forget the significance of this win for Norris. It's his first since his breakthrough victory in Miami back in May, and it cements his status as a championship contender. The way he bounced back from losing the lead at the start shows just how much he's matured as a driver. And it was yet another bad start for Norris, but in all honesty, so what? When Norris lost the lead off the line, there was echoes of the events in Spain, Hungary and Belgium, in which his victory chances were compromised by being passed on the first lap, either through a slow start or an error. This time there was nothing to worry about though. Norris was easily able to stay with Verstappen in the early laps despite the difficulty of following at Zandvoort, an indication of just how comfortable he is with the pace advantage. And when Verstappen's tyres started to go off around 15 laps, he was complaining they were numb and no grip. Norris moved in for the kill. McLaren's confidence in his pace was evident on the pit wall too, when Norris's engineer Will Joseph said that Verstappen might try to undercut him, stop earlier and regain the lead on fresh tyres, but they were not worried about it. In the end, they did not have to worry. Norris was more than 5 seconds in front by the time Verstappen stopped for fresh tyres on lap 27, and McLaren were able to cover him with a stop on the following lap to enable that their driver would come out in front for the race win. In a post-race interview with Sky Sports, Norris reflected on his stunning victory and McLaren's growing challenge to Red Bull's dominance. Norris emphasised that he was competing with Max for the very beginning throughout the entire season, not just starting now. He acknowledged that McLaren has had a competitive car for some time, but admitted that they missed opportunities to beat Verstappen in previous races. Norris highlighted the team's efforts to address past shortcomings, stating that they reviewed their performances and worked to improve in various areas. He sees today's dominant victory as proof of their progress, while also recognising that there are still aspects of their performance that need refinement. The British driver views this result as a strong start to the second half of the season. And don't we all? Addressing the less than ideal start for both himself and teammate Oscar Piastri, Norris attributed his poor getaway to immediate wheel spin. He expressed the need to discuss the issue with his team to determine whether it was due to driver error, car setup, or a misjudgment. Norris emphasised the razor-thin margins involved in achieving a perfect start, noting that even the slightest miscalculation can lead to many problems. While acknowledging that the team's start performance wasn't optimal, Norris maintained a positive outlook. He stressed the importance of reviewing and learning from these experiences to continue improving. This measured response really shows Norris's maturity and commitment to ongoing development throughout the season, both personally and as part of the McLaren team, as they aim to sustain their challenge to Red Bull's supremacy. So who was your racer of the day? Do we have a real title challenge on our hands? How will the Driver and Constructors Championship change over the next 9 races? Let us know in the comments below. And as always, remember to like, comment, share and subscribe, and make sure that you follow all the ongoing events here at On Track GP with the latest F1 news and analysis. Keep the pedal to the metal, and I'll catch you in the next video.